everybody.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Today, the second part of the larynx, I will take that class. Okay. So that is the second part of the larynx. Now, we have learned about the cartilages, about the joints, about the membranes, what are the membranes are present in the larynx. So now, today I will tell you about the muscles of the larynx. The muscles of the larynx are of two types. One is the intrinsic muscle, another is the extrinsic muscles. So intrinsic muscles, they are to the larynx, they are present in the larynx only, and they act on the vocal cords, or they can act on the laryngeal inlet. So in the vocal cords, the vocal cord, by this action of this muscle, the vocal cord can be abducted, or it can come close to each other, that is adduction, and also it can be tensed. The vocal cord can be tensed and can be lengthened about 50 times. Okay, that is the maximum it can be lengthened. So there are muscles who can do that. And also the laryngeal inlet, I have already told you that laryngeal inlet is closed by some muscle, and the laryngeal inlet can be opened by some muscles. So these are known as openers of the laryngeal inlet, or closers or sphincters of the laryngeal inlet. And also there are some extrinsic muscles. They are attached to the cartilages of the larynx, and they help to either to elevate the larynx or to depress the larynx. So there are so many muscles are there. So we will come one by one. Okay, so the intrinsic muscles which act on the vocal cords, they are the one, there is only one abductor muscle. Yes, in the last class I had told you that the thyroarytenoid muscle is an abductor muscle. Maybe wrongly I have told you, but that is an adductor muscle. Can you see the thyroarytenoid muscle is the adductor muscles. Abductor muscle is only one, posterior cricoarytenoid, and adductor muscles are three, and the tensor muscles is also only one, that is the cricothyroid muscle. Now all these intrinsic muscles, they are supplied by the branch of vagus nerve that is known as the recurrent laryngeal nerve, whereas the cricothyroid muscle, it is an intrinsic muscle, but it can be seen outside the larynx, and it is supplied by a branch of vagus nerve, but not recurrent laryngeal, that is external laryngeal nerve. So all the muscles of the larynx are supplied by recurrent laryngeal nerve except cricothyroid, which is the tensor muscles of the vocal cord, and it is supplied by the external laryngeal nerve. Okay. Now other intrinsic muscles, they act on the laryngeal inlet. Now first come to the abductor muscle, that is the only muscle, posterior cricoarytenoid. Now you can see the posterior cricoarytenoid. This is the posterior aspect of the larynx, you can see, and here the lamina of the cricoid cartilage is there, and on that lamina there is a ridge on the midline, and by the side of the ridge there are depressions, and on that depression the posterior cricoarytenoid muscle is attached. Cricoarytenoid, that means it will go from the cricoid cartilage to the arytenoid cartilage, and where it will go, that is the muscular process, that there is a process known as the muscular process of the arytenoid cartilage. So they are attached to the muscular process of the arytenoid cartilage. Now when this cricoarytenoid it contracts, it will bring the muscular process medially, as well as there will be lateral rotation, and there will be that the two vocal process, these are the two vocal process that will go laterally. As a result, there will be abduction between the vocal folds. Okay, and they will also bring the arytenoid cartilage slightly backwards. So that is the action of the posterior cricoarytenoid. Now we will come to the adductors of the vocal cord. There are three. One is the lateral cricoarytenoid, another is the thyroarytenoid, another is the transverse arytenoid. Transverse arytenoid, it is attached to the posterior surface of the arytenoid cartilage of both sides. So this transverse arytenoid, as they are attached to the posterior surface of the arytenoid cartilage, when they contract, they bring the arytenoid cartilages close to each other. Okay, and thereby close the cartilaginous part or adducts the that is the cartilaginous part of the rima glottidis, that is the space between the two vocal folds, that will be narrower. So they are adductors of the vocal cord. Similarly, the lateral cricoarytenoid, you can see that the lateral cricoarytenoid, it is taken origin for the from the upper border of the arch of the cricoid cartilage, and that is going towards the muscular process of the arytenoid cartilage. So that is the lateral cricoarytenoid, and when they contract, they will cause just the opposite action of the posterior cricoarytenoid. That means the muscular processes that will go laterally, they will pull the muscular processes laterally, and the vocal processes medially. So that is the attachment, they will cause the adduction of the vocal cord. And the thyroarytenoid, I will come to it later. It has a very complex action because it has three parts actually. I will come to that. So lateral cricoarytenoid, I have already told you, takes origin from the arch of the cricoid cartilage, lateral part of the arch of the cricoid cartilage, and it is attached to the muscular process of the arytenoid cartilage. And when they contract, they will cause lateral, that is the lateral movement of the muscular process and the medial movement of the vocal process. As a result, there will be adduction of the vocal cord. Now, the transverse arytenoid also, I have told you that it is attached to the posterior surface of the two arytenoid cartilages, and when they contract, the two arytenoid cartilages come close to each other. So that also causes the adduction of the what is that, vocal cord. Now the thyroarytenoid, this large part is the thyroarytenoid, which is attached to the lower part of the midline or on the inner surface of the thyroid cartilage. So this is the thyroid cartilage, this is the inner surface, and in the midline, that is at the angle of the thyroid cartilage, just below that angle, it is attached to the inner surface of the thyroid cartilage in the midline, and it also takes origin from the fibers of the some fibers of the cricothyroid ligament. And you know that cricothyroid ligament, it is an intrinsic ligament and it forms a vocal cord. In this region, just here, it will form a vocal cord. Now the deep fibers of the thyroarytenoid, they are just close to the vocal cord and they are known as the vocalis muscle. Now this vocalis muscle, they are attached from the inner surface of the thyroid cartilage to the vocal process of the arytenoid cartilage, and they are known as vocalis. So that is the vocalis muscle. Here, this is the deeper fibers of the thyroarytenoid, that is the vocalis muscle, that is very close to the vocal cord. Is it clear? Another fiber, some more fibers are there which are present, which goes upwards towards the aryepiglottic fold and enters into the aryepiglottic fold, but they are coming from the thyroid cartilage, so they are known as the thyroepiglottic muscles. Now all these two muscles, that is the vocalis muscle and the arytenoid muscle, they cause adduction of the vocal cord, and the vocalis muscle, that will cause that will maintain the tension of the vocal cord as it is very close to the vocal cord. And the thyroarytenoid, you can see that it is connecting the thyroid cartilage and the arytenoid cartilage. Okay, so when they contract, they will cause they come close to each other. The thyroid cartilage and the arytenoid cartilage, they come close to each other. As they come close to each other, the that is the vocal cord becomes shorter, thicker. Okay, shorter and thicker, and their pitch and their movement of the vocal cord, that is the vibration of the vocal cord, will be less. As the vibration of the vocal cord is less, then the pitch will be low pitch, but it is a louder sound. Though it is low pitch, but it will be a louder sound. So they cause adduction of the vocal cord, and there will be low pitched sound because the vocalis muscle maintains the tension. Okay, here also the other muscle, that is the cricothyroid muscle, that is also maintain the tension. That is the actual tensor muscles of the vocal cord. So that is about the thyroarytenoid. So thyroarytenoid, it causes it relaxes the vocal cord, it thickens the vocal cord, and it shortens the vocal cord. Whereas the lateral part of the thyroarytenoid, that will rotates the arytenoid cartilage inwards, and the vocalis muscle, which is the deeper part of the thyroarytenoid, that will thickens and tenses the vocal cord. And the thyroepiglottic muscles, if you see it, the thyroepiglottic muscle, that is also a part of the thyroarytenoid, and it is attached to the aryepiglottic fold, and they act on the aryepiglottic fold, and as a result there will be the inlet of the larynx will be opened up. Okay, now come to the tensor of the vocal cord, that is the cricothyroid muscle. This cricothyroid muscle can be seen from outside, though it is an intrinsic muscle, and also its nerve supply is not the recurrent laryngeal nerve, but the external laryngeal nerve, the branch of vagus nerve. Okay, now you can see that the cricothyroid muscle, this is the lateral view, this is the anterior view. Now the cricothyroid muscle has two parts, oblique part and the vertical part, and they are attached to the anterolateral aspect, anterolateral surface of the arch of the cricoid cartilage. The oblique part, it is going towards the lower border of the thyroid cartilage and also to the lesser cornu of the higher thyroid cartilage, sorry. And the vertical part is going and attached to the lower border of the thyroid cartilage. And here is the thyroid membrane, that is the intrinsic membrane, and in between these two cricothyroid cartilage, there is the median thickness of the cricothyroid membrane, that is known as the median cricothyroid ligament. Now this cricothyroid muscle, when it contracts, then it pulls the cricoid cartilage upwards and the thyroid cartilage downwards, and also it brings the thyroid cartilage forwards and the cricoid cartilage backwards, and thereby the arytenoid cartilage will go more backwards and the thyroid cartilage forwards, and in between them the vocal ligament will be tense. Okay, so here you can see the movement. So it will cause the elevation of the cricoid cartilage and depression of the thyroid cartilage. So there will be that the gap between the thyroid and the cricoid cartilage will be less, and also it brings the thyroid cartilage forwards and the cricoid cartilage backwards. As a result, the vocal cord, which is between the thyroid cartilage and the vocal process, that will be the length will be increased. The length of the vocal cord will be increased. So it tenses the vocal cartilage. As the tension is more, the vocal cord can vibrate more than when it is shorter. Okay, so that is the action of the cricothyroid, that it tenses the vocal cord. Now come to the muscles, intrinsic muscles, which are acting on the laryngeal inlet. So either they are opener or they are closers. So opener muscles, already I have told you about the thyroepiglottic muscle, that is a part of the thyroarytenoid muscle, and these fibers, these are the upper fibers of the thyroarytenoid muscles, which are going to the aryepiglottic fold, and when they contract, they causes opening of the laryngeal inlet. Similarly, the closers are two. I am coming to that. So this is the thyroepiglottic muscle. It is the openers of the laryngeal inlet. Okay. And the sphincters, there are two. One is the aryepiglottic muscle. This is the aryepiglottic muscle, and its continuation, that is the oblique interarytenoid muscle. The oblique interarytenoid muscle, that is superficial to the transverse arytenoid muscle, and they are attached from the muscular process of the arytenoid cartilage to the apex of the arytenoid cartilage of the opposite side. So they are going from the muscular process of the arytenoid cartilage to the apex of the arytenoid cartilage of the opposite side. Okay, so they are crossed fibers, and when they contract, they will cause closure of the glottis, closure of the laryngeal inlet, and the fibers of this oblique arytenoid cartilage is continuing into the aryepiglottic fold. So these muscles, the continuation of this oblique arytenoid muscle, are known as the aryepiglotticus or aryepiglottic muscles. And when they contract along with the oblique arytenoid muscle, they will also close the laryngeal inlet. So they are known as the sphincters of the laryngeal inlet or the closers of the laryngeal inlet. Okay. Now you come to the extrinsic muscles. Now these extrinsic muscles, they are attached to the mainly to the thyroid cartilage. There is an oblique line in the thyroid cartilage between the superior tubercle and the inferior tubercle. I had told you, so that they are attached to the post to that in that border, and this cartilage here you can see the thyroid cartilage is here, and they are all pharyngeal muscles. Already you have read about the pharynx, so you are known to this name, the salpingopharyngeus. That means they are coming from the cartilage of the ear, and then the palatopharyngeus comes from the palate to the pharynx, the stylopharyngeus coming from the styloid process to the pharynx. Now all these muscles, they are slightly blended with each other, and and the stylopharyngeus is attached to the posterior border, and all these muscles, as they are blended with each other, they are also attached to the oblique line and posterior border of the thyroid cartilage. So these muscles, when they contract, they elevate the thyroid cartilage, so they cause elevation of the larynx, because the thyroid cartilage is a cartilage of the larynx. So when the thyroid cartilage is elevated, so they will cause elevation of the larynx. Other elevators of the larynx, like the thyrohyoid muscle. So between the thyroid cartilage and the hyoid bone, there is a muscle, and that causes elevation of the thyroid cartilage, but depression of the hyoid. But they will cause, due to elevation of the thyroid cartilage, that will cause elevation of the larynx. And other muscles, which are suprahyoid muscle, like the digastric muscle, the mylohyoid muscle, the stylohyoid muscle, the geniohyoid muscle, all are suprahyoid muscle. So they elevate the hyoid bone. And as the hyoid bone is connected to the thyroid cartilage by the thyrohyoid membrane, so when the hyoid bone is elevated, the larynx is also elevated. That occurs during swallowing. In swallowing, if you see that your Adam's apple will go upwards, okay, during swallowing. If you try to swallow, then your Adam's apple will go upwards. So they are elevators of the larynx. Now the depressors of the larynx are the infrahyoid muscles. So infrahyoid muscles which draws the what is that hyoid bone downwards, they will also cause depression of the larynx like sternohyoid, sternothyroid, omohyoid. Now, what is the arterial supply of the larynx? I think the muscles of the larynx you have understood, isn't it? Now, the arterial supply of the larynx, that is very easy. The superior laryngeal artery and the inferior laryngeal artery. Superior laryngeal artery up to the vocal fold, below the vocal fold, the inferior laryngeal artery. Superior laryngeal artery is a branch of superior thyroid. The inferior laryngeal artery is a branch of inferior thyroid. The superior thyroid is a branch of the external carotid artery. The inferior thyroid artery is a branch of the thyrocervical trunk. That is a branch of first part of the subclavian artery. Okay, so they will supply the arterial supply. Venous drainage, again it is easy. That is the superior laryngeal vein and the inferior laryngeal vein. The superior laryngeal vein drains into the superior thyroid vein, which drains into the internal jugular vein, and the inferior thyroid vein drains into the inferior laryngeal vein drains into the inferior thyroid vein, which drains into the left brachiocephalic vein. Okay. Then the lymphatic drainage. From the upper part of the larynx, that is above the vocal fold, they will go to the they will first go to the pre-laryngeal group of lymph node, then to the pre-tracheal group of lymph node, and ultimately they will go to the upper deep cervical group of lymph node. Similarly, from the lower part of the larynx, they will go to the lower deep cervical group of lymph node. Okay. The cancer of the larynx may occur, but it is very slow growing tumor, and the lymphatic it is very slow growing tumor. Lymphatic, though lymphatic drainage is there, lymphatic spread is not so much common in the laryngeal cancer. Now come to the nerve supply. The nerve supply that I have told you, that is the recurrent laryngeal nerve, which is a mixed nerve. They supply all the muscles of the larynx except cricothyroid, which is supplied by the external laryngeal nerve. That is the motor nerve that will supply the cricothyroid muscle. And the recurrent laryngeal nerve, also it is a sensory nerve, and this recurrent laryngeal nerve is also known as the inferior laryngeal nerve. It supplies the mucosa of the larynx below the vocal fold, whereas the superior laryngeal nerve, it has a sensory branch, that is the internal laryngeal nerve, and that will supply, the internal laryngeal nerve pierces the thyroid membrane, and it will supply the mucosa of the upper part of the larynx. And there are many glands are present in the larynx because it is a respiratory epithelium, and the goblet cells are present in that epithelium. So the secretomotor supply of those glands is by the vagus nerve, secretomotor or parasympathetic. And sympathetic supply is also there, but they are vasomotor supply, and they are coming from the superior cervical ganglion and from the middle cervical ganglion. Okay. Now, what is rima glottidis, that you know. So, this is the membranous part of the rima glottidis, intermembranous part of the rima glottidis, and that is known as the phonatory part. And this is the cartilaginous part of the rima glottidis. And here you can see the trachea. It is through the laryngoscope you can see like that. The vocal cord, they are pearly white in color because the mucous membrane is very close to the vocal cord, though there is a space known as Rentke space, but in between the mucous membrane and the vocal cord, there is no blood vessels. So that's why it is very pearly white in color. And this is intercartilaginous part, and you can see the trachea. So it is known as the respiratory part of the glottis. Okay, that is the respiratory part of the glottis, and this is the phonatory part of the glottis. Now, what are the functions of the vocal cord? What are the functions of the larynx? That is the functions of the vocal cord. So, function of the first function of the larynx is the breathing. So, breathing, during breathing, the vocal cord will be abducted, and when we talk or when you sing, then there will be the vocal cord will be adducted, and at that time the vocal cord will be tensed also, and there is more vibration. As your pitch will go high, the vibration of the vocal cord will be more, about 1000 times per second, and as your pitch will be low, that then the vocal cord will be thicker, and vibration will also be less, and they will be adducted. Okay, so that is one function, that is during breathing. The vocal cord also functions, vocal cord also moves. And you know the other functions of the vocal cord, that it produces sound because the larynx is a voice box, and the voice is produced by the movement of the vocal cord and the vibration of the vocal cord. Also, when we swallow, at that time also vocal cord they close and come in contact with the each other, so they will close the larynx more tightly, and nothing can enter below the vocal fold. So it protects the trachea and the lung to go something like fluid can go rapidly than the food. So fluid sometimes it tries to go enter into the larynx. Okay, so but the vocal fold, at that time, as it touches the vocal folds they come close to each other. So there should be some muscle coordination must be there. If there is no muscle coordination, then you cannot sing also. There will be cracked voice, isn't it? And another maneuver, that is known as the Valsalva maneuver. Have you heard about that Valsalva maneuver?
No, ma'am.
So what
No,
is
ma'am.
Vals? No, ma'am. Okay.
No, we didn't know
We
You
didn't
about
did
hear
Valsalva.
about the
Valsalva maneuver.
Valsalva maneuver. Okay. So in the Valsalva maneuver, during Valsalva maneuver, you can see that the larynx is closed. Larynx is closed. Okay. So you have taken deep inspiration, and the air enters into the lungs, and as the larynx is closed due to the vocal fold, adduction of the vocal fold, it cannot come out. So it is this but you try to. Acha, okay, now the larynx is closed, and the air is inside, so there is an pressure is increased inside the lung, and your diaphragm goes down. As a result, the intra-abdominal pressure is also increased, and that during defecation, it helps in defecation, it helps in childbearing, and also it helps to stabilize our posterior, that is our vertebral column. Okay, so when somebody is going to elevate some heavy object, then they need that is support to their back, and by that way, when the air is entered inside, then the back is supported, it is more supported, and they can elevate the heavy object. After that act, when he has been elevated, then there will be expiration. During expiration, the vocal cord will open, and a large amount of air will come out, and that then there will be a grunting sound. So in case of Valsalva maneuver, when you close your nose, you take a deep inspiration and close your nose and close your mouth, then the air will be trapped inside, and if you try to moderate force of exhalation in that closed glottis, then that maneuver is known as the Valsalva maneuver. Okay. So that is in Valsalva maneuver. During Valsalva maneuver, the vocal fold they come close to each other, and they close the glottis. Okay. So these are the functions of the some functions of the vocal cord. Now the vocal cord when it come close to each other, then the position is median position. That is in singing or during deep expiration also there will be midline position. Okay, and in paramedian position, when usually we whisper, then that vocal cord, it is slightly away from its midline, that is about 1.5 millimeter away from the midline. That is the paramedian position. And after death, or if the recurrent laryngeal nerve is paralyzed, or if all the muscles are paralyzed, or if one-sided muscles are paralyzed, that sided vocal cord will be abducted and it goes 3.5 millimeter away from the vocal cord, and that is known as the cadaveric position or neutral position of the vocal cord. And then during inspiration there will be partial abduction, and at that time that will be 7.5 millimeter away from the midline, and in full abduction the vocal cord will be about 9.5 millimeter away from the midline. So during phonation, or when we are talking, or when we are singing, or when we are swallowing, or in forced expiration, the vocal cord comes close to the midline, and that is the median position. During whispering, also it is in paramedian position, and the intermembranous part is about 1.5 millimeter away from the midline, and the intercartilaginous part, they are away from each other, so there is a gap, and through that gap the air can pass, and that occurs during whispering. Another, during quiet respiration, it is about slightly lateral abduction, that is abducted position, and the intercartilaginous part, that is quadrangular in shape here. So they are not going laterally. But in case of forced inspiration, both the vocal cords that will also be abducted, and the two vocal process of the arytenoid cartilage that will also laterally goes laterally because of the lateral rotation of the arytenoid cartilage. Okay, and the medial rotation of the mid, and the muscular processes of the arytenoid cartilage, they come close to each other. So that occurs in forced inspiration. At that time, the rima glottidis, it is quadrangular in shape. Quadrangular in shape. Okay. So that is in forced inspiration. Now, you know that all the muscles are supplied by the by the recurrent laryngeal nerve, and if it is paralyzed on one side, here it is paralyzed on the left side, so there will be that this is the left side. So left-sided vocal cord cannot be abducted during inspiration. During inspiration or respiration, it cannot be abducted. But that is of the sound side, it will be abducted. Okay, but if the recurrent laryngeal nerve palsy on both sides, then both the recurrent laryngeal nerve cannot be abducted, but it can be tensed, because the cricothyroid muscle, which is the tensor muscle of the vocal cord, that will be supplied by the external laryngeal nerve, so it will not be paralyzed. So some sound may be there, but that sound may not be there also, because the vocal fold cannot be adducted or very poor sound will be there. And during phonation, again the sound side can be adducted, but the paralyzed side cannot be abducted. Okay, but this sound side can come close to that sound side will be so healthy that it can be compensated. So it come close to the paralyzed side. So that is the compensated, like a recurrent laryngeal nerve palsy. But in case of bilateral, again the same position, it will remain in the same position, that is in the neutral position, that is the cadaveric position. Okay, then in case of external laryngeal nerve injury, there will be weakened phonation, because there will be the vocal cord cannot be tensed, and it is the external laryngeal nerve supplying the cricothyroid muscle. And if both the superior and the inferior laryngeal nerve both are paralyzed on one side, then also there will be cadaveric position of the vocal cord. Okay. So assignment. So I will give the both the assignments of both the part 1 and part 2 of the larynx together to your mail also. And here also I have written very small, small questions are there, only 2 or 3 lines. Okay. And what is Simon's law? I have not told you. So you read it please, and you write the about the Simon's law. Okay. I hope that you have understood. So thank you.